You ready? Okay, hello. I will be reading from Titus, the second chapter. It's Titus, the second chapter, the third and the fourth verse. It says, "Older women likewise to be reverent in their behavior. Do not malicious gossip, nor enslave to much wine, teaching what is good, so that they may encourage the young women to love their husbands, to love their children." When I read this, I started laughing because, and I was sitting, I know they were like, what is wrong with her? I started laughing because this is something that God's been dealing with me about, and I've been dealing with myself about. Because lately in the papers and art magazines, you read about the different role models and the different examples and the role models that our children have. I have 3 girls, and they're teenagers now, and I'm looking at their role models, and I'm like, no. So one day I was on Facebook, and one of the members of our older church posted something about one of the older women from our church, and I got to thinking about the older women of our church, Miss Wesley and Miss Thomas and Sister. I could name all the older women of the church and the things that they did and the role models that they were in Sunday school and how they came in with their big hats on and they always had their suits on, and you could see them in the store and they weren't doing anything bad. They were, you couldn't go back and say, well, I saw Miss Wesley at such and such and I saw such and such. You couldn't say that because they were examples to us. They were role models and they were examples to the younger women. And then I'm like, well, why are you dealing with me about this? Because I'm not old, that's what I told myself, But then I have a 17-year-old daughter, so I might be a little old. But it was like, because you're professing to be saved, you're professing to be a child of God, you're going to biblical school, you're wanting to learn how to be a teacher, you're saying that you have a calling on your life to preach to women, but you're living like this, or you're doing this. And then every time I do something, or if I say something, or if I catch myself hollering at one of my daughters, what would somebody say if they saw you? What if somebody else saw you? Well, what would you do if you saw your daughter doing this? And that's what we as women have to ask ourselves, because we're so quick to say, I'm not a role model. I've heard it all. I'm not a role model. I've raised my children. I don't have time for this. I'm too old. You can't tell these girls nothing nowadays. And we gossip about them. We talk about them. As they walk by, do you see what she have on? How many children does she have? Is she going to have, how many baby daddies does she have? She needs Jesus. Do you see what she wore to church? This is what we do. We're gossiping about them. We're leading them in the wrong way because they're looking at us and we're clowning. So then they're like, well, if she clowning, not only are we being bad examples, and here he was talking about being examples, women being examples to others, but Paul's letter was to the church. It was to Titus about the church, giving instructions to the women. But he was talking about, being examples to women and just in general. But we have to think about not only as us being examples to other women, but to other Christians. When we as Christian women do different things and we present ourselves, or we're seen somewhere acting a certain way, or we're seen somewhere doing something, and somebody sees us and is that what they do in the church? And I have to admit, I've done it before. And that's my biggest pet peeve about people in the church, because you don't realize what you said or what you did. You turned somebody else away from the church. That woman that came in that church with that little bitty dress on, with that bad weave, she might have got beat up last night. But she might have got beat up last night. She might have got put out last night. She might have been through. She might have just left the hospital. You don't know what that woman went through. And the way that you approach her or what you say to her, that could turn her against God. That right there could make her say, well, if that's how they act in the church, then I'll just go back where I came from. And that's what you have to think about. You have to think about them when you talk about them. When you have to think about stuff like that. And then this is the verse, and I'm just going to tell it. This is the verse that really got me, the part about the wine, being enslaved to wine. Because, we, maybe not all of us, but wine is something that I love. I'll drink a glass of wine with dinner. I'll drink a glass of wine and socializing and stuff. But then it was like, well, why can't I drink a glass of wine? They drunk. But then you have to think about it. You're being enslaved to it because you feel like, now I need a glass of wine to calm my nerves. And then you think about when you're in a restaurant and one of your church members walk up and you're sitting there with a glass of wine. You think about that. You think about, well, how do I act when I drink this glass of wine? I'm being sociable. Everybody wants you to drink. One person told me it's like being rude when you don't drink. Because I was like, no, thank you. I don't want any. You're not drinking any wine today? No, thank you. I'm okay. That's rude. That's like not talking to somebody when you're in a group. These are the things that we deal with as Christian women. We deal with the fact that as we change ourselves to become more like Christ-like, we deal with the fact that we're giving up these things, and we deal with the fact that people are looking at us differently. Like, you used to drink and you used to party and you used to wear this, and people are looking at you. People that you knew, people that you're learning to know, people that want to be an example, people that you're an example to them and you don't even realize it. On my way to work, on my way here, I prayed today. Lord, make me an example. Lord, use me. Not just use me for your kingdom, not just use me so that I can, glorify you, but use me to lead somebody else. Use me to be an example for somebody else. My daughter is 17 years old. Thank you, Jesus. She's never been in any trouble. She's been on the honor roll her whole life. I was telling her Mama, it's too much going on in the world. And I'm looking and I told her, her birthday was Saturday. And I put on her Facebook page, I said, my mother told me that the goal of a mother and a woman, is to make sure that her child doesn't make the same mistakes that she did, and to make sure that she has a better life than she did. I said, and looking at you, I feel like I've reached my goal. But then I also had to think about the fact, who was she learning from? Who taught her? I was an example to her. But I don't want to be just an example to her. I want to be an example to other people. I want women to look at me and say, okay, God changed her. I remember when she did such and such, and God changed her. And then people tell you, don't tell your testimony. Or be careful what you say when you tell your testimony, because it's going to come back on you. Well, I'll tell you my whole testimony. I'll tell you my life and what I've been through and who I've been with. I will tell you that because if what I say or what I've been through can lead you in the right direction and make you realize that I've been through this and you don't have to go through it, or I've been through it and you can come out of it. People look at me and you're young, you're 37, you couldn't have been. Baby, you don't know what somebody's been through until you sit down and talk to them. And as women of God, we need to sit down and talk to some other women. We need to be examples to these women. We need to be receptive to these women. We need to teach them how to love their children. Teach them how. My little sister, my mom died when she was 18. Her baby was a month old when my mom died. My mom was there. Hold your baby, Miko. Do this, baby. Feed your baby. My mama was there. She didn't have that. We need to be there for these girls that don't have their parents, their mothers. We need to be there to show them. If you see a girl in the store and she not holding that baby, let me show you how to hold a baby. You can do it without insulting them. You can do it. You can lead them by just giving them a little guide. For all you know, she might have needed that help. Nobody's helping her. You never know. One of my favorite movies is Where the Heart Is. I call it the Walmart baby. And the girl mama, she was going through so much, and her mama didn't want her. She was pregnant. Her boyfriend dropped her off at Walmart and left her there. She went to the hospital, had her baby. People gave her all this money. Her mama came, took her money. Then she's sitting at the hospital, outside the hospital on the bench with her baby. Her baby and some flowers. Had no clue where she was going to go, had no clue what she was going to do. An old lady walking by took her and her baby home, and helped her raise her baby until that old lady died. But if that old lady, just out of the kindness of her heart, she started talking to her, and she took her and she led her. And this is what he was telling the women, and this is what we have to do as women. So in my conclusion, as we as women are growing in Christ, we also need to be conscious of being examples to other women. We need to pray daily when we're praying for people and God change them and help them. Lord, help me to be an example to somebody else. Yeah. Lord, show me where I'm wrong so that people are watching me. I don't want to walk around every day saying there's somebody watching me, but make it so that it's so easy to me. Lord, touch my heart that I can minister to other women, not just by standing at a pulpit, you need to do this, but I can minister to them by giving them or teaching them or being examples to them. That should be our daily prayer. Lord, help me to be an example to another young woman. Thank you.